uh, countries are starting to trade with the ruble. It's becoming more of an international currency. The dollar is weakening. We're seeing inflation in the United States. We're being hurt by the wheat that both Ukraine and Russia had, as well as the lack of fuel. And more than us, Europe is in terrible situation. I have no idea what the hell they're doing in Europe, because German industry is one of the few Western countries that's still industrialized. Is going to die. It cannot function without the fuel that it's been getting, and yet they're still pushing ahead with this. I think under the reins of the United States. So, and perhaps the outcome of this is the hegemony which the U.S. had in control of the World Bank and the IMF, and the dollar being the currency for trade, is being lost. And that hegemony is being challenged from the East, Russia and China. And it's clear that Russia and China have made deals, and we're talking while the U.S. was boycotting the Olympics, doing a boycott. They were there talking. I mean, it's almost foolish to think about what's happening. What's your thoughts on this? Are we going to end this war with a new economic reality throughout the world? And has this been a major mistake on the part of the United States and Europe, or where do you see this going?
I'll start here rather than going all the way back. I'll just go back to February 4th of this year. Okay, so that way we wrap up February 4th. What's important about February 4th is that Vladimir Putin traveled to Beijing, China, where he met with the Chinese President Xi Jinping to start the Winter Olympics. This is the one that the U.S. boycotted, the West boycotted, everybody boycotted. Strategic error on their part. Putin and Xi met, and their meeting produced a 5,000 plus word joint statement. And this joint statement was interesting on a number of fronts. Strategically, right off the bat, the big item that comes out of the joint statement is that Russia and China have agreed that the rules-based international order that the United States has been selling as the end-all. You hear it in every, even General Miley, who the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, testified before the Senate, I believe, today or yesterday, and here's a military man talking about the need to defend the rules-based international order. What that is, in short, one word is American hegemony. That's two words, so that's Marine math for you. But American hegemony is what the rules-based international order is. It's how the United States dominates the world. It's the system we put in place at the end of the Second World War, not only to rebuild the world, but to control the world, control the world's economy. It promised not to do history, but George Kennan wrote something called the Long Telegram that was used as a document. He wrote it in, I think, 1948, 49, 46, maybe later, but in the 40s. And he said this is a document that became famous because it became the foundation of the American policy of containment that led to the creation of NATO and the Cold War. But Kennan wasn't writing about the military. Kennan was writing about the economy. He said that the Russians aren't buying into the American effort to impose a dollar-based economic control over the Soviet Union through the Marshall Plan and aid. The Russians rejected that. The Soviets rejected that. He said, by rejecting that, they're rejecting our control of the world scene. Therefore, we are going to be in perpetual conflict with the Soviets on economic issues. And he was right, because they're not going to surrender. They didn't surrender until 1990. Then they surrendered. We saw what happened to Russia once they surrendered. But my point is that the United States have been using this rules-based international order to control the world, not to help the world, to control the world to America's sole benefit. It's all about us, not about anybody else. If other people profit from it, great, but we don't care. We want it about us. And you see this with, the arrogance of Joe Biden, telling the German premier, the chancellor, you can't have a pipeline with Russia. You have to shut it down, even though it's going to destroy your economy, because it's not good for us. What what kind of hubris is that? It's a hubris that comes from thinking that you are the world's essential nation, that the world can't exist without you. But guess what? Russia and China can exist. And they reject this, and they formally said, there will be no more unilateral world. We will no longer recognize the United States as the singularity around which the world gravitates. It's now going to be a multipolar world, one that is a law-based international order.